Oh, I just thought of a movie that you might like to do. I just watched it yesterday.
Well, we just went live, but you can start with that if you want.
No, never mind.
Okay.
Are
Well,
we now live? I don't. I'm
yes,
just
we
waiting
are.
for. Okay, great.
We are now live, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cryptidbits Goes to the Movies. On February 14th, 1991, 34 years ago, A Love Story for the Ages was released. A love story that featured a cannibal, a serial killer, and a young Jodie Foster. That movie was Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs propelled our society's fascination with serial killers, and tonight our panel will be peeling away the cocoon to get to that beautiful moth of a movie underneath. And just as a side note, I have made very clear and very vocally my hate and loathing for Jodie Foster. And this movie transcends even that. So tonight we have Patrick, James, and Brad. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Any anybody have anything exciting, anything they want to talk about before we start
Cool.
on?
I like that the smoke from your cigarette was coming up, and it really added a nice atmosphere to that.
Anything
Uh,
going on?
yeah, so my last movie, Cryptid, we just released a Blu-ray for it. It just went live on June 1st. So you can now get a director's cut of the monster movie Cryptid that we did, that was released a couple years ago. It's now on Amazon. You can get it where all your fine Blu-rays are sold.
I, I should probably shut my window. That was a loud car. Sorry, James.
Oh no, I'm just not much actually. It's been a weird couple months.
I
Hannibal.
do have something. Uh, the teaser for the next short film that I'm working on, that I will be writing and directing with my wife, just dropped on YouTube on the Magenta Manor Productions YouTube page today.
Oh, very cool.
Mhm.
What's it
Very.
called?
The teaser is for our short film. It's going to be called Noctis Monstorum.
I'm not gonna be able to spell that. I'll just look up the Magenta web channel.
Oh yeah, it should be the top thing. All right,
Cool.
I gotta remove that. That thing crushes my nose.
Oh,
But it is fabulous, and I love it.
It
Nice.
is fabulous, no
and
doubt. No
very,
doubt on that.
very on theme for tonight. So I figured tonight we're going to start with an overview of the movie and kind of just move into themes and just chat as we will.
Mm,
I like it.
I'm with it.
So when I looked up the original, like just a generalized theme, um, The Silence of the Lambs was said to be at its base level a story of a woman trying to succeed in a man's world. Um, Agree, disagree,
No,
thoughts?
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's like Jonathan Demme who directed it. I've never seen any interviews with him about the movie, but just by the way he did like the shot selection and sort of just the way he shot the movie in general, it was like a forefront of trying to put the audience in her kind of point of view, right? With like a lot of sort of POV shots, a lot of people like looking down on her, a lot of sort of those uncomfortable, like you
Yeah.
don't usually see a lot of people looking in the lens. And there's like a lot of those type of shots just to kind of like get that feeling of people sort of judging her and like her trying to make her way in a predominantly male world or profession, I should say.
Yeah, I watched it like maybe again a couple months ago and I didn't realize, I guess maybe it took me a while, like when I was older, to realize how uncomfortable that gaze looks when you rewatch that movie.
Mhm.
Like when you're 20, 21, you don't realize like what it really is until you watch it when you're a little older and you're like, this is very uncomfortable even watching these
Mhm.
men looking down on her in every scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
an
think
interesting way to do it. It really is. Like, um, and kudos to him because it's like like you can get that point across in a number of different ways of shooting it, but I feel like that was the probably the most effective way to like really put the audience into that world of like, hey, this is like, especially like when she's standing in the room when they go down
Mm.
um for the autopsy
Yeah,
of
when they're in the
the
mortuary
body,
room.
and like all the police officers just standing around just like looking at her. It's super uncomfortable.
Well, even the opening scene where she's in the elevator and she's just kind of like surrounded. There's a lot of that type of cinematography where everybody's kind of looking down on her, and like the angles are that, you know, they're looking down on her. And it's wild that really the only person who shows her like the respect and gives her the esteem that she deserves is supposed to be the villain of the story. Hannibal's the only one who is, you know, decent to her, and it's because he doesn't have any ulterior motives. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the book, but there's a lot of that. Like everybody's always like got this ulterior motive when it comes to her, and she uses that to kind of fuel her and drive her forward.
You know, even Jack Crawford. I mean, did he send her because she was a woman, thinking it would like hype up Hannibal more to even talk? Or did he send her because
in 8 years?
Yeah. So even her superior is using her for her femininity, I guess.
Her womanhood? Is
Her
that what you're
womanhood, if you will.
if you will.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's what we'll use from her
Her
womanhood.
gentle flower.
We're not going to put it
Chilton
that way.
comes right out and says it. You know, like
Exactly.
I don't think Lecter's even seen a woman in 8 years. Nor are you ever his type. You know,
Yep.
It's like a pretty young thing to turn him on. Like, so it's almost like he feels like he's complimenting her by saying that to her, because he's a fucking weirdo.
Well, I feel like it also speaks to oh shit, was it Chilton? Is that the name of the
Yeah, Frederick
hospital
Chilton.
administrator?
Yeah.
Like you get the sense that he's more upset that she's doing this without him, but also because she's a woman. Like if that was a man doing that, he probably would still have been upset, but maybe not had been as confrontational about it.
Well, the first thing he does was like ask her out on a date.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know?
So it's like he's very much trying to like make himself superior to her in every way. And the fact that she keeps kind of getting around him to get to Hannibal and essentially playing him the whole movie, like that really like bothers him. And I think
yeah.
And it's a lot because it's just she's a woman.
Yeah, and like the scene where, you know, that he's bringing her to Hannibal's cell, and he says to her, you know, like, "Oh, I keep him in here," and she's like, "Well, if he, you know, he views you as his enemy, maybe it's better that I go by myself." And he's like, "You might have suggested this in my office and saved me the trip." And she immediately turns on the charm and says, "Well, then I would have missed the pleasure of your company, sir." And he gives her this like half-hearted smile, like, "I don't know if you're fucking with me, but I think you are. But I'm gonna take it either way."
Oh yeah, he took it the "you're fucking with me" way. I'm pretty sure. Like his whole attitude towards her afterwards was just like, "Nice try, bitch. Like you already turned me down. You're using me to get to this."
Yeah,
but she has to do that consistently throughout the movie.
Well, he was very like, you know, "Will you be in Baltimore overnight? Because this can be quite the fun town if you have the right guide."
He's so sleazy.
And she's like, "No, I gotta go back." "All right, then let's make this quick." Like like that soft, like probing type of tone of voice disappears, and it's right to business.
It's funny that I don't know the name of that actor who plays Chilton, but like
Anthony Heald.
Anthony, and what is it? Anthony Yield?
Heald, Heald.
Heald. That dude is like such the quintessential asshole. Like his entire career is just filled with asshole characters. Every time he's in a movie, he plays like that person. It's hilarious.
He's so good at it.
He is really good.
He played an Irish guy who killed a bunch of people with a car bomb on a very early episode of Law and Order.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And he had that smug fucking look on his face.
Of course he did. That's his brand, smugness.
Yep.
And Jess, you and I were talking about this off the air on the TV show. Raul Esparza, who plays Chilton in the Hannibal TV show, does a phenomenal job of capturing his essence.
Yeah.
Not just his voice and his cadence, but just like the sliminess of everything.
He's more like, I think I had mentioned, he plays him more human though. Like I feel bad for him when stuff happens to him on the TV show.
He definitely sets himself up for some stuff, and I don't want to get into it because that's not what we're talking about. But there are
We
some
will
things.
later on. Don't worry.
Okay, well, I was gonna say there are some things that happen to him that happen to other characters in
Yeah.
the source, in the books and in the TV show, in the movies, because they have to change the storylines around. But
Well, that's what I found. I was watching a lot of the TV show lately in prep for this, even though we're talking about the movie. But the movie, when it came out in 1991, was very female derogatory, I guess. Like it was more against women. And then when they did the TV show, they kind of took a lot of the parts that would have been a woman getting hurt and they put a man in the situation instead. It was kind of a big change.
I'm sorry. Run that by me one more time. So
I didn't put it right. So the movie was more like anti-woman, it seemed. Even though like Clarice is the hero or whatever, but like it sets it up that a woman has to fight for every single little, or Clarice, we'll just use hers, has to fight for every little step in that movie. Everybody's putting her down. And I hate Jodie Foster's guts, but I'll give her credit for this one. When they did
not anti-woman as in like it's against women. Do you mean more like actually?
Maybe I don't mean anti-woman. It's very like hard for a woman in that movie. Like they put them in more precarious situations.
Yeah. Well, I think your opening statement summed it up perfectly, right? Where it's like it is a lot of the movie is the struggle of this woman in a male-dominated profession, right?
And in the TV show, they take that and they turn it and they make more women more powerful and in charge, and they don't put them in so much of the situations that, like, they changed kind of it a little bit for the now world. Like Chilton takes the place of Lowndes because Lowndes was a female in the TV show.
Yeah, they gender swapped a couple characters.
Yeah,
Bloom, Alana Bloom in the show, and Freddie Lowndes ends up being played by a woman.
Yeah, and they got more revenge, I guess, than they would have if they were male in the movie.
Yeah, like everything that happened to Chilton, especially with the whole Eddie Izzard stuff, like that whole thing, that was great. I liked that addition because that was not anywhere in the source material.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did really well in the movie was, they sort of showed what that life was like or what the world is like, but it didn't feel preachy at all. Like it felt honest. It felt like, oh, I totally get that. I understand. It didn't feel like it was over the top in any way. Like it didn't feel like it was like really trying to like beat down all men or elevate all women. It felt very grounded, and I thought like realistic in the way that she was treated and the way that she sort of rose up and like conquered her demons and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like it was done in a very good way, as opposed to, I feel like sometimes it can get a little preachy, and that always is never the really way to go.
But ultimately, I mean, not to interject, but ultimately the irony of it all is, while the men surrounding Clarice throughout the movie look down on her and question her and kind of get in the way at every turn, all of their best laid plans fall apart at most points, and it still comes down to her to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even, I'm sorry, the name's escaping me again, but the lead guard, the head of the
Barney.
Yes, thank you.
Cranky face on.
Yeah, I mean, he gives her shit when she shows up at the end when they're moving Hannibal, and I mean, he pays a blood price for that, if you will. And it's just funny to me that they belittle her at pretty much every turn and try to kind of, lack of a better term, put baby in the corner. But it all just kind of comes around and bites them in the ass, and in the end, it's Clarice that's saving the day anyway. You know,
and
they also made a drastic change from the book to the film, where Clarice is the one who pieces everything together, because when she goes to see Frederica Bimmel's dad, and he's like, oh, the cops have been over here over and over, and you know they haven't found anything. And it's like, yeah, you're assuming that it's male cops. And she goes in, she finds the pictures in the music box almost right away.
Mhm.
She puts together that, you know, based on the diamond shaped patterns that are on her back when they find her after they take her out of the Elk River, and then matches it up with the alteration on the dress that's in the closet, you know, thanks to the cat leading her in there. As opposed to, she figures out that he's making a suit out of women, you know, based on all the conversations, you know, finding the storage unit and everything. I think Ted Talley, who is the screenwriter, did a really good job of giving her more agency, because her figuring that out, that he was making a suit out of women, and that's why, you know, like when she has that frantic phone call with Crawford when he's on the plane, right before the climax of the movie. In the book, Hannibal literally says to her, he wants a vest with tits on it.
Mhm.
So it's like, there's nothing really to figure out.
Yep.
He's like,
Yeah.
this is what's going on. And they already had the conversation about, you know, him hating, James Gumb hating his identity, which he thought made him a transsexual, which is the, you know, not how that works. But because of his pathology, like that was just the way things worked in his head. So if he was being rejected by all these different, uh, you know, gender reassignment surgeons, the only way for him to complete his transformation is to make
A
himself
vest with tits on it.
yeah, vest with tits on it.
And it's funny too, because you see like Jodie Foster has such a hard time as a woman, such a hard time fitting in, such a hard time like standing up for herself, such a hard time getting, and you have Buffalo Bill over here wanting it, like romanticizing being a woman so badly that he's willing to kill for it. It's
And
just it's so it's such the opposite side of the coin, where it's like you don't actually want to be that. You just think you want to be that. It's not going to be any easier for you.
well, he's also out of his goddamn mind.
Well,
So
yeah, that too. I
his
mean,
logic, I wouldn't trust his logic or reasoning. But there's even like Starling comes off as very cold and standoffish in the books to her male counterparts, to the point where in Red Dragon, when hit myself in the face with my pen, when Paul Krenler, who is Ray Liotta's character in the movie, when Paul Krenler is trying to like frame her and get her out of the picture
Mhm.
so he can continue like working with Mason Verger, you know, he has this inner monologue where he's like, you know, under any normal circumstances, he could just say that, you know, she got to where she was by, you know, sleeping around with everybody, but no one would believe it with Starling, because that's just, she doesn't come across, she's not really friendly with anyone. She's professional
mhm.
and like almost clinical with her relationships with people. She has like one friend, John Brigham, who gets killed at the beginning of Hannibal. And like that was it. Like all her mentors, like Crawford dies. He has a heart attack and dies at
Spoiler
the end
alert.
of Silence of the Lambs. Well, he knows he's having a heart attack, but his wife is already dead. Like they cut that whole
Mhm.
subplot out in the movie adaptation. But like, so she has no allies, she has no friends, she has no, like, all of her support group, everybody's gone. The only person who's still there, like keeping an eye on her and watching out for her, is fucking Hannibal Lecter.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's the only one that doesn't see her as just like a woman. He sees her as like an intellectual counterpart.
Well,
Until
I
the
think
end.
Jack Crawford respects her. So, I can't speak to the books 'cause I don't know, but like certainly in Silence of the Lambs, he clearly respects her opinion, and her ability to sort of do all this stuff. I mean, there's obviously the one thing with when he kind of like uses her to get to the autopsy and get all those cops out of
Yeah.
there, and then she calls him on it and he apologizes for it. But he's with her he's with her lockstep. Like he's not, I mean, he made the call about the making the deal because they kind of had to get something in pretty quick, and so he respects her, even like talking to her on the phone and letting her know what's going on, and like, but I do feel like he does. Maybe it's different in the book, but I do feel like he does respect her, and respect her abilities, at least in the movie.
I kind of want to push back a little bit on one thing you said when
Mhm.
they're in the car and she calls him out on it. He doesn't really apologize. She's like, it matters. Cops look to you to see how to act. And he's like,
Yeah, he just says point taken.
yeah, he's not like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, sorry, I won't do it again. It's just like, oh, yeah, I get where you're coming from. And like
Yeah.
Right.
rolls over and goes to sleep.
Right.
There's also that weird semi-sexual tension at the graduation ceremony where he comes up to her and he's like, oh, I'm not really good at this. I'm going to get out of here, but, good job. And, like he's like flattering her and she reaches her hand out to shake his hand and they zoom in on that. Like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing. This is our relationship, like,
Well, even Hannibal brings that up. He's like, "You think
Yeah,
Jack
right.
Crawford fantasizes about you?" And she's like, "He's my boss." Like, just like let's not. And even as rude as he is, like he doesn't. That's the only time he really like sexualizes her is when he's trying to break her down when they first meet.
I'm
Mhm.
not interested in that, doctor. Frankly, that's the sort of thing Miggs would say. Not
I know.
Hannibal.
Picture that your first time going to see Hannibal Lecter and multiple Migs comes at you.
But here's the thing, and I think it takes a little bit for him to kind of warm up to her, so to speak, because
Migs or
what
Hannibal?
Hannibal,
Okay.
because what Miggs said. Well, I mean, Miggs needed a little bit of time to warm up too, but what Miggs says to her is deeply rude and deeply disrespectful, and as we know, that's like Hannibal's like line of demarcation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the one thing he doesn't stand for. So what he says to her is fine. But what he does, that's a step too far, and Hannibal kills him for it.
Brings us to our next theme, I guess, would be like a manipulation. I think there's a lot of manipulation in the movie too.
Oh yeah, nonstop. Like that's
Yeah,
like,
it's all about. I mean, it's all about manipulation. The whole movie is like every character is trying to manipulate another character for their own gain, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill is trying to manipulate his victims so that they'll put lotion on them so that he can kill them and take off their skin. Like obviously Hannibal's trying to manipulate Starling. Starling's trying to manipulate Hannibal. Jack Crawford's trying to manipulate like the whole thing is manipulation. I mean it's just part of the sort of rat race or maybe not rat race, just sort of like there's a murder in the works and they're trying to figure it out. They're up against the clock, and so like everyone is just trying to do whatever they can in order to solve it.
Mhm.
And if that means manipulation, so be it.
now if you want to really like, this is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but if you want to really delve into the manipulation part of this, there are theories that and the show really drives this home. There are theories that Buffalo Bill was Hannibal's greatest achievement. He's the one who sent him off. He's the one who did all of these things, or he awakened that in him through a practice called psychic driving, where instead of curing him, made him worse. And the reason he would do that, like, it kind of was a win-win situation for Hannibal no matter what, because he knew, based on his prior experiences, that the FBI would come to him at some point and try to use him as a resource to catch this killer. And if he was already imprisoned, then he could use it to negotiate his way out of the Baltimore State Hospital. Because as good as Barney was and as nice of a relationship the two of them had, Barney never forgot what he was. Barney never deviated from the rules,
Mhm.
never had any issues whatsoever. In the, I think it was like 8 or 9 years that Barney worked there, over the 10-year incarceration of Hannibal, there was never an issue, never an incident. As soon as he's out of Barney's custody, what happens? Kills a bunch of people and escapes. Like almost the moment he's done with
And
Barney.
Barney's very respectful to him also.
Yeah, in the books they have long conversations about psychiatry, and he even gets a mail order degree, and like they just spend hours talking. While they're not friends, they are friendly, to the point where when Hannibal escapes in the book, he sends Barney a letter and like a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And
would you consider
Barney,
Clarice? Do you think Hannibal sees Clarice as a friend?
I think he sees her as a contemporary. I mean, obviously, there's a whole rabbit hole of he's trying to bring back his sister through her.
Yeah.
That,
I never liked that whole Hannibal side thing.
Because there's a deleted scene in the movie, and it's from the book, where I think we'll probably get into this a little later when we talk about the dichotomy of how we view Buffalo Bill versus Hannibal Lecter. Like, he talks about, Billy wasn't born a criminal, wasn't born a monster. He was made one through years of systematic abuse. And she brings that up about Hannibal. And Hannibal's like, no, I am what I am. Nothing. He literally says, nothing happened to me. I happened. And then it's completely undercut by that whole plot line about his sister. And then we get to see it more in Hannibal Rising. But he sees her as the line that Mason Verger uses is in Hannibal, I think, is accurate. When the fox hears the rabbit screaming, he comes running, but not to help. I think for him, he's almost like a cat playing with a mouse.
Absolutely. I see. I'm sorry, Brad.
Go ahead, James.
I see that relationship as, I feel like it's obviously very complex. There's multiple layers between Clarice and Hannibal, especially through, and I'm talking specifically Silence of the Lambs, not Hannibal or Red Dragon or any of that stuff. It's cat and mouse. There's prey animal and thing, but she also is working angles on him as well. It's not just a all one way situation. She's trying to get information out of him as well. So it's almost like two cats circling each other at times, waiting for which one will pounce first. Very tense relationship, but I also feel like Hannibal, the idea that Hannibal has a friend almost seems like impossible, because the man doesn't feel like we do. He doesn't think like we do.
Well,
That's just
he's a psychopath, in which case, like, he's narcissistic to a point. Well, he's narcissistic to a point where
he's got like antisocial
personality disorder.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. So like, I don't know if he would have a friend on the same level as what we would describe a friend.
Yeah.
Where it's a symbiotic relationship where you're helping each other out. Like, I don't know if he would be capable of that.
It's just not somebody he plans on killing, I guess. It would be as close as to a friend.
Like, I think I judge their relationship as not necessarily as he views her as a protege, but certainly in that world. I think she impresses him, because like when she first comes in, he belittles her and calls her a rube, and like he doesn't really think anything of her, and
she's
really
a well scrubbed rube, but a rube nonetheless.
Yeah, but he doesn't really feel like, he doesn't really want to do anything. It's more of it's a distraction for his day, and it's like, all right, whatever, here's this idiot. But then when she kind of manipulates and is able to kind of turn the tables a little bit and show that she is smart enough to be there, that's when he gets interested. And it's like, oh, it's almost like sitting down, if let's say you're playing chess and you're like street chess or something, and all these people are coming up, and they're just awful, awful, awful. And then all of a sudden you get someone that's like, oh, that's an interesting move. Mm-hmm. And so then it becomes, the interest is more in the competition, in the back and forth. And so I always sort of looked at it as like, he respects her, which is not which is not a common thing for him. So like I don't know if you could identify it as friendship or anything specific, but I think he respects her, and I feel like Hannibal Lecter's respect is difficult to come by.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, I think. I would be aiming for the Hannibal Lecter respect without a doubt, because you know you're safe that way.
She definitely
Yeah.
challenges him, but not in a threatening way. It's more of I'm standing up for myself. You know, like after he does the whole Rube thing to her, and she says, "See a lot, Doctor. What about, how about pointing that high-powered perception at yourself and, writing down what you see? Maybe you're afraid to." Like that scene, because you could tell he was pissed because he really doesn't have any emotional reactions. But the way he looks at her and the way he shoves the sliding food tray with the VICAP thing back at her, and then goes into the, census taker once tried to test me. Like that right there. Like, I don't think he was expecting it. And it kind of reminds me of the scene where in Red Dragon in the film, where he talks about how Will Graham is afraid, but he's not a coward. Like, you're afraid, but you still came to see me. You're afraid of me. You still came to see me because, what's going on is the bigger issue at hand.
He doesn't consider her a threat either at all. She's not a threat to his safety at all.
Yeah, I think she does consider him a threat to his safety.
You think Hannibal considers Clarice a threat?
Yes, especially once he gets out, because the first thing he says is, "I have no plans to call on you. Please make sure to extend me the same courtesy." She's like, I can't do that. But I think if she were to take him down, as we see in Hannibal when she tries to arrest him, she's like, it's not personal. It's like, you still have to pay for your crimes. And you've done more stuff since you've gotten out. You are a danger to other people. I'm not doing this strictly under a sense of duty. I'm doing this because it's the right thing according to my moral code.
Yeah.
And she does legitimately trick him with the Anthrax Island thing. Like he is legitimately fooled by that. And then obviously Chilton fucks that whole thing up. But like,
fucking Chilton.
I think that also was like, as much as he was annoyed by that also was a level of respect where I was like, oh, she got one over on me. And so I think there's this weird like professional courtesy respect thing that kind of works. And I think personally that's partly why I didn't really care for the Hannibal movie, because I felt like it went a little too personal. And it was like, oh, are they romantic? Is it,
in the
does
book
he love her? Does she love him? And it's like, oh no, this is gross.
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter to me is not like a sexual person. Not the Anthony Hopkins ones, at least. The Mads Mikkelsen ones, they make him very sensual in everything he does. But the Silence of the Lambs movie,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, the Silence of the Lambs movie, you don't look at Hannibal and you're like, okay. It's not. He's not. It's not that look.
Those unblinking eyes.
Yeah, right. Well, for that, it's more like that's not something that interests him. The way Mads Mikkelsen uses it in the show, it's almost like he wields it like a cudgel. Like it's not a. It's just another tool that he can use to cut deeply his enemies. Because it's like who he sleeps with in that movie or in the show.
Yeah. Well, everybody. I mean,
also, I feel like Mads Mikkelsen is just inherently more sexual than Anthony Hopkins. No shade on Tony Hopkins.
No, if you're going to do a comparison, like, Mads Mikkelsen's, he's also a dancer, like a big dancer in real life. Yeah. Like a professionally trained dancer. So he moves differently. He moves more cat-like and more like...
Yeah, he's much more sensual. He's much more sensual.
Yeah. Anthony Hopkins is not.
Methodical.
Yes.
More deliberate. in his
Yeah.
It's
movies,
interesting
in
the
his
sort of
action. Yeah.
the three different people who have played Hannibal Lecter, I thought were coming at it from three completely different ways.
Yes.
Which I
Mhm.
find very interesting. Like Brian Cox's version of Hannibal Lecter is a much more grounded version of Hannibal Lecter. Like
See,
he's
it's
a little
weird. I
bit
thought he
more.
was trying too hard.
Yeah,
He-
I agree.
I mean,
He-
yeah, but I guess it's leaning for me. It feels like he's leaning a little bit more into like the more typical psychopathic kind of
Yes.
killer.
Mm.
But he's a little bit grittier and a little bit more. There's more of like a visceral fear with him, whereas Anthony Hopkins, it's more of a psychological fear because he's not physically imposing, but there's something about him, that the no blink thing, the fact that he looks
Yes.
he looks down the barrel of the lens a lot, which is very
Anthony
unusual.
Hopkins specifically plays it seems to me, like he is in total control of his body at all times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then of course, obviously, like Mads Mikkelsen, he is a bit more sensual, right?
Yeah,
His
he's
is a
like
lot
the
more-
Dracula of the Hannibals.
He's a little
Yeah.
catty. He's
Yeah.
got
That's a good-
he's
that's
got
a good comparison.
he's got a little he's got
He's
a little
always
something. Yeah.
And then like Brian Cox, you just expect him to like pistol whip somebody for saying shenanigans one more time. Like I
Yeah.
can't get that. I
Yeah.
can't think of Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter without him being Super Troopers. So it ruins it for me every single time.
Fun little tidbit. No pun intended. At least not this time. The kid who ends up playing Hannibal in Hannibal Rising
Mhm.
beat out Hugh Dancy,
What?
who ended up being Will Graham on the TV show.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which one was Hannibal Rising? Is that a
the
show?
one that had no, it was the
No.
movie that had the Achilles tendon scene in it.
Yeah, it was a prequel.
It was the
another
one-
prequel?
So the kid that looks like the guy that's on Saturday Night Live, he looked like
Yeah.
Andy Samberg. He played young Hannibal.
A little bit,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
With
and-
Reese Ifans and I think Richard Brake was in that too.
It's
Yes,
the
Richard Brake was in it. Yeah.
it's like the unnecessary backstory of Hannibal that you didn't
Yeah.
want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never saw that movie.
Fun
It's-
fact
the book
for-
and the movie are terrible.
Yes.
Yes.
And fun fact for anybody watching, I don't like Achilles tendon scenes, so I saw that movie once.
Fantastic scene. Love that. That was the only good part of the movie.
That was
Oh, the
horrendous.
horse decapitation was pretty good.
That
It-
was good.
Just Achilles tendon scenes, just for all you directors out there,
Yeah.
are not needed in every fucking movie that
Yeah, they
anybody
are.
makes. They
More
are
of it. More
unnecessary.
of them all the time. Make more Achilles tendon. But I was going to say, to the point of the physicality of the performance, Anthony Hopkins, I think all of the deliberateness of the performance and his stillness,
Mm.
he does not move for anybody.
Mm.
He moves when he wants to. And I think that's always very interesting when we get to the jailbreak scene and you see suddenly it's like a mousetrap. It's not moving, it's not moving. And all of a sudden,
You
he
just
is absolutely capable of
And it's still
maniacal
controlled,
violence.
though.
And
Even as
still can be-
maniacal violence
Yeah.
is still so controlled.
He's
Yeah.
sitting there rocking out to fucking the Goldberg variations.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Pembry, who for some
Oh,
reason is
Pembry.
introduced as Petri the first time you meet him. But when he hears him trying to like crawl away, he's like, I'm going to take your face off.
I loved that scene the first time I saw that movie in the theaters. That was the scene that, like, I had to cover. I still almost want to cover my eyes every single time I watch it.
Wait a minute, you saw that movie in the theaters? Seriously?
How? Yeah.
You don't have to be ashamed of it. I'm just
Fun
just
fact, everybody out there, I'm old.
No. I mean, I did not see it in the theaters. I
Oh,
saw
okay.
it on video. That's
Yeah,
why
I
was
remember-
surprised
I
that
saw
you
it on
did.
home video too. Like I would not have pegged you as.
I was not allowed to go.
I would not have. I wouldn't have pegged you as being old enough to have seen it in the theater.
Yeah, I think I.
You were we're not going to throw ages around here.
No,
but
I'm
you
going to
were
find out
young
right now how
teens.
old I was when I
You
saw
were
that movie in the
young
theater.
teens.
Well, it's
I
1991
know how
when it
old you
came
are.
out.
You were young teens. You can leave it at that.
Yeah, I
Um,
was 10. Like,
I was 10.
Okay, well, I was
Yeah.
15 and I saw it in the movie theater. And when I did see it in the movie theater at 15, I had to cover my eyes. Like that part when they open it up and he's just
Yeah.
hanging there. Even I watched it a couple months ago, and that part, I still kind of was like, oh, do I does this still affect me? When he comes in and he's just hanging in that cell. It's just so beautiful though, but it's like
Yeah, it
Oh,
is
it's lit
amazingly
so
gory at the
well.
same time.
I just
sort of
think
like
it's
hanging angel kind of thing.
yeah. I think the dynamic of that performance of Anthony Hopkins, just that whole you know this guy is a psychological threat throughout the entire movie
Yep.
because he's doing what he's doing to Clarice, but then you realize you almost lulls you into this false sense of security, like, oh, well, how bad could this guy actually be at that point? Like, oh, he's
Mhm.
just
And you
mental.
also view him as an old man.
Yeah.
Yes. And then
Well, I mean,
all of a sudden,
that's what the guards do. The guards do. They because he's respectful and because he's quiet, they are more lax of the protocols and security.
yeah, that's the genius of it, is that
Mm.
when it all comes to a head and he escapes, it's you go realize he was playing a game the whole time.
Mhm.
Mm.
And Anthony
Very
Hopkins was 55 when he was in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, but Anthony Hopkins has the Gene Hackman disease where he just always looks 50. Like when he was 20, he looked 50, and when he was
Yeah.
like he's now 90, he still looks 50.
I
Like,
did not realize he was that old in that movie though.
Yeah.
And I say that old with the remembrance that I was 15 years old when I saw Silence of the Lambs in the movie theater. So
yeah,
I'm
he's
I'm
just-
almost Anthony Hopkins' age, but it's crazy to think he was 55 when what his biggest role at that time for him.
Well, I mean,
He got it 55.
55 in 1991 is not the same as 55 now.
No,
Like,
55
Paul
in
Rudd's, what,
1991 is like 86. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's like we were talking about, Jaws a few months ago,
Yeah.
and it's like all of those actors were like 30s, and they all look like they're 50s because they're just like it's just hard sun and no sunscreen, and just everyone lived kind of rough, before the now times.
When sitting there, I'm 27.
Everybody was just withered.
I mean, Jaws,
Jesus,
you got the youngest guy on that set was
mom was 40 years old, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
thought that she would like when I saw that when I was younger, I was like, that's grandma age. There's no way she has a
Yeah,
kid.
right?
Yeah,
No way.
100%.
And it's
Roll
funny
it.
because
We're gonna tuck
people,
it back to Silence of the Lambs after this Jaws conversation. Go ahead.
We don't, yeah, we don't,
the people who were, supposed to play, like Anthony Hopkins wasn't even the first choice. Like I know Tim Curry auditioned.
Ooh, that would have been.
He would have been a good one.
You think so?
I think so.
Yes.
He would have played it differently, but I think he would have been maybe not as intense. But Tim Curry
I
has
think
an
as
intensity
intense.
about him that
As
is
for me,
very compelling.
I feel like,
That
and I know this is
smile
going to
he
sound
has-
weird. I feel like he would have played it spider-like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
But it was
Yeah, I
like
think he could have been
Pacino,
more
De
animated.
Niro,
Yeah,
Pacino, De Niro, Connery, and Gene Hackman were all considered. I
Yeah.
couldn't see any of them.
No,
No.
Sean Connery would have taken me right out of the Lambs.
yeah. No
Daniel
Sean Connery.
Day-Lewis is an interesting one because I
Daniel Day-Lewis was considered for that role.
but I think he would have gotten into it too much. I think he would have actually eaten people.
Yes.
Like
Well, he must have been pretty young at that point. In '91.
that was right around what, Last of the Mohicans? That was in
Yeah, I
that?
mean, he was
Oh, wow.
probably like 38, 39, maybe even a little younger than that.
Yeah, that's
I
a
do-
young
Very
Hannibal.
young.
Yeah.
I do think that that Tim Curry, and I know this because I was at Rhode Island Comic Con a few years ago when he was doing a panel, and he talked about it. And he said like that's the one role he wishes he could have gotten. Because I mean, think of that.
Mm.
Hmm.
It's not a creepy scene, but him in Home Alone 2 when he's smiling and he has just that big toothy grin, like that to me. And that actually, the way my brain works is weird. To kind of touch on something we talked about a little while ago, the relationship between Hannibal and Clarice. Hannibal is a crocodile and Clarice is the little bird that picks stuff out between his teeth. Like that, I think sums up their relationship. Like it's symbiotic,
Mhm.
but at any moment those jaws could snap shut and there's not a thing she could do about it.
What was it like that? Was it the pilot fish that eat
And the shark.
and the shark? The pilot
That's what I
Yeah.
thought of instead of the
Stick on the
crocodile and
bottom
the
of
bird.
remorse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the tuck.
There's
boy.
more to talk about on the Tuck.
We haven't even
Would
touched
you
upon the
chuck
Tuck
me?
yet.
Oh, we haven't talked.
I'll
I'm sorry.
chuck
Yeah.
me.
No, I guess we're going to move it over to, so I have one of the other symbolisms, the human skin. It was used many times in the movie as an escape, a transformation. Who
Yeah, it definitely.
I feel like who wants to start?
It's a recurring thing, because
Mhm.
it kind of plays on the being comfortable in your own skin, and that literally like gets usurped over, like the scene with obviously Jim Pembry, having his face cut off and used as a mask. In the book, it's a little more gruesome. And Hannibal does that intentionally as subterfuge. Like he takes one of the eyes and like kind of
Mm.
sticks the eye on his face to make it incredibly gruesome. So like nobody kind of looks at him
Yeah.
really closely because it's too gross. So that kind of aids in his subterfuge.
I love that. It's Jim Pembry. Damn it, talk to him. I loved that line in the movie so much.
That guy was a country music star.
You're talking about Chris
sergeant.
Isaac? Isn't Chris Isaac in
Chris
that
Isaac,
shot?
isn't that? He's the SWAT leader.
Yeah,
he's the
which
SWAT
is
leader.
how and
It's just-
why
I know.
did Chris Isaac end up in Silence of the Lambs?
How
Was he
was
just
Roger
like was
Corman
he
the
like
head
doing a
of the
concert
FBI?
in the area?
It's just so weird. I'm like, is that fucking Chris Isaac?
Yeah, and again, how is Roger Corman the head of the FBI? Like
It's such a weird, like, but the whole skin as a motive is so like, oh, sorry, I had a cat sneeze behind me. Skin is transformation.
It's all everything is transformation, right? It's all about masks. It's all about transformation. It's all about, like you said, subterfuge. It's all about that kind of that costume, you're right? Because it's like everything is about wearing women's clothes, turning women into clothes. Like it is all transformative in that way, where it's like putting something over you. And even if it's something like, they talk about Buffalo Bill's past and he's trying to make his outside like his inside, where it's like he feels like he's been wearing a mask this entire time. Like he feels he's a woman inside and he's a man outside, and now he's trying to fix that by killing these women and wearing their skin. But like the whole movie is all about masks and transformation and like subterfuge and costumes and insecurities and all that kind of stuff.
I got to push back a little bit on that, because this is like a big thing. It's not that he thinks he's a woman. It's just he hasn't found any group that he's ever been associated with, and he's never fit in anywhere. He doesn't know who he is, and he's just using this as the next step. Like, oh, okay, I must be transsexual because I don't like who I am. I don't, and he went through like a ton of shit as a kid. Not excusing what he did, but he had a very awful upbringing. Like there's a lot of similarities between him and Francis Dollarhide from Red Dragon, but it's not that, because that was a big thing when the movie came out. There was a large uproar from the LGBTQ community, because it's like you're associating trans people with violence, and that's why they specifically put that line in there, that there's no correlation between transsexuals and violence. That you have to also remember what time this was. This was right at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and so people already had this like massive stigma towards anyone who wasn't straight. So there was a lot, and Jonathan Demme even said, like, I wish I had kind of done more to kind of distance those two things. But it makes sense that watching it, that's what you're getting out of it, because
well, he does. I mean, Hannibal Lecter does talk about that, because like she, when they're talking about the transformation, and Clarice mentions the line of transsexuals are not usually aggressive. I forgot exactly what his line is, but he mentioned a line that he doesn't
a real
believe
transsexual. He thinks he is.
Yeah.
Tries
he
to be,
thinks he
but
is.
his
And so
pathology is 1,000 times more terrifying.
right. So it's like it's not necessarily that he's a woman inside, but he thinks
Yeah.
he's something else inside. I guess that's
Right,
probably a
and-
better way to phrase
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so he's trying to do something on the outside that he thinks might be more match his inside. Probably not true, but like that's his sort of attempt to do it. But
Yeah,
it's
and you could-
still like that idea of him trying to wear this mask or this costume or wearing skin or trying to be in somebody else's skin to find the one that is closest to what he thinks he believes he is.
In
Yeah,
his
and-
basement too, you see so much different, like there were Nazi flags, there were Confederate flags. Like he had tried everything, I think, at this point to
right.
find,
That's a good point.
you know, like there was so many different groups represented in his basement that this was just the next group he was trying.
Yeah,
Maybe
and-
it'll
and I
work out,
think
maybe it won't.
To
his
really
love of
touch
the
on,
moths.
yeah, there's a
Mhm.
lot about moths.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the to kind of continue on that, just because like this was something that I really like, you know, wanted to. Jess and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, "Save it for the show." If you combine everything, like he went to get gender reassignment surgery, and he tried 3 different places, and they all rejected him based on, you know, his lack of psychological coherence with, you know, what a transsexual person actually is. Like he didn't believe that this was his identity.
Mhm.
And as a result, this is why he's now killing these women, because he thinks, well, if I can't do it this way, I'll do it this way. And that's where Handel's like, you know, he's not a real transsexual, but he thinks he is. He tries to be because he hates his own identity, but his pathology is 1,000 times more savage and more terrifying.
Mm.
And it's like Jess just said, like it's not that, you know, this is what he really feels in his heart of hearts, but he's tried everything to fit in. And it's like, maybe like you're a fairly good seamstress, like maybe follow that path. Like you seem to know what you're doing at a sewing machine. Maybe pursue that.
And I would say, I'm just assuming here because I have never tried it. I don't think skin is that easy to sew.
No, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. If you can sew skin, you can sew anything. I feel like that's a standard saying, right? I feel
It's
like I've
very
heard that.
serious. I heard
Yeah.
that in home ec when I was in junior high school,
Yeah,
when I
right.
took home ec, without a doubt. They told us that you can sew skin, you can sew anything.
It's
Right,
effectively leather, and if
Leather is
anyone's
hard to
ever-
sew.
Yeah, if anyone's worked with leather,
Yeah.
it's not easy. But I mean, that's why they call leather Leatherface. It's similar. It's not perfectly the same, but the
Yeah.
elasticity is a little more than cowhide. But it's effectively leather, so it's not an easy thing to work with. So
I would
you would need an
imagine though
expert
that
on it.
he's, you know, not to delve into a rabbit hole, but he's probably going to have some sort of he should have had some sort of like environmentally controlled
Mhm.
basement, like a humidor. So he just had that suit just kind of laying
Hanging.
out. It's like if you're
Yeah.
gonna, like, it's just sitting on the mannequin, like
Yeah.
the dress shape there. It's like, if you're gonna be like wearing this,
That's
Yeah.
another thing. Like you go
I-
out and you meet somebody and you go home with them later on, and there's like jagged pieces of your woman's suit putting together.
My one true gripe and concern with the movie is a point PJ just brought up, because my dad's a hillbilly and we've been hunting and I've skinned animals, and
Mhm.
there's no treatment on this skin.
I mean, maybe he's just a big moisturizer. Maybe he just does
What
like a
the-
little nightly,
No.
nightly mask that he puts
No.
on.
Like it wasn't like the tannins and all that stuff like you
need
would.
you need the tan hide
Yeah.
to make sure it doesn't rot. And he does none of this.
See,
to do in a basement.
But I think that's another maybe facet of the mentality of Buffalo Bill, is that he's just not really making his woman's suit correctly. He's just making a woman's suit.
I mean, to be
Right.
fair, it's his first woman's suit. So
Yeah,
how
cut the
many
guy
of
some
us?
slack. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us are great the first time out? Like he
Well,
would
that-
wear this woman's suit, and then he would do something, and it would rip, and he's like, "Oh God damn it, it's too dry." All
I
right,
mean,
the next one we gotta moisturize.
you
We gotta
saw
put
the
this.
wig. You saw the human wig he had on. Those laces were not laid down either. Like,
Oh.
No.
cut him some
definitely not.
slack.
Yeah,
That's what he wanted to
he's
do with.
growing.
That's what he wanted with Clarice. That's why
Yes.
he toyed with her. In
He
the
loved
book,
her hair.
He was like, "Ooh," he's like, "I could do that," because his inner monologue is he's gonna kill her, scalp her, and wear her hair, and like pop over the side of the oubliette there, and be like, "Ooh, look at me, I'm FBI," and like really fuck with Catherine Martin.
Well, she's no good to him any other way because she's not roomy.
No.
She's not roomy
Yeah.
enough.
And can I take this time to apologize? I know they're not watching, but I'd like to apologize to the man that I Buffalo Billed at Texas Harbor Freight last month. Where, so somebody, side note, I had cut my knuckles up putting a thing together. And the next day I went to Texas Harbor Freight, which is what I call, I don't even know the real name of the store.
Isn't it just Harbor Freight?
Nope, it's Texas Harbor Freight. It's Tractor Supply.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Texas Harbor Freight.
That's fair.
And I had gotten 2 30-pound bags of soil, and I could put them in the carriage. But when I got to the car, I realized I couldn't take them out of the carriage. So a nice man pulled up next to me and asked me if I needed some assistance.
Hmm.
And knuckles are bleeding because the Band-Aids are falling off. I'm trying to lug 2 30-pound bags of soil into my car. And he's like, "Do you want some help with that?" And I was like, "Yes, thank you. That's very nice of you." Yes. So here's where the night before I had just watched Silence. And in my head, everybody the night before just watched Silence. So why wouldn't he get this? So as he leaned over my car with the bag of soil, I was like, "Oh, imagine if I just like smacked you over the back of the head so I could take you home and put you in a well like Silence of the Lambs." And this man like just kind of did the slowest head turn ever. And I was like, I apologize. I just watched Silence last night and and then I proceeded to
42 regular.
It was so embarrassing. I was like, "I'm so sorry." So I
Did
just
you
stayed
back him into a van?
like, no, he just kind of got very uncomfortable through the soil in my car and left. So I'd like to apologize to that gentleman, wherever you may be.
Mhm.
I
That
think that's funny. Like if somebody said that to me, that would have been a good conversation starter. I'm like, all right, we're friends now.
that's not what he was expecting. So apologies to that gentleman.
killed you and threw you into an oubliette.
Yeah.
That's French for forget.
Imagine, sir. Let's see here.
I'm not gonna do it, but like imagine like I could.
But
I'm not
imagine.
gonna, but
I mean, you didn't have a cast on your arm either, so
No, I just had a bunch of Band-Aids on my fingers.
right.
that was
So-
a Ted Bundy trick.
Yeah, I actually kind of had some stuff about that. Let's see here. The whole Buffalo Bill conglomeration of all the kind of serial killers they used for him,
Mhm.
like Ted Bundy, Ed Gein, all of that.
When was the book written?
1988.
1988. So actually pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Like if the book was written in 88 and then the movie came out in 91, I mean that's a pretty fast from book to film.
It was he used a lot of, and the thing that's crazy is in 1991, like this movie comes out, that's also when the Dahmer trial was happening, and there was
Oh.
also a guy in Russia, they called him the Rostov Ripper. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, who was a cannibal. And if you've ever seen, it's kind of this is a long way of going around it, but if you've ever seen the HBO Chernobyl series and the way that they deny that everything is happening, and it's like, nope,
Yeah.
you're wrong, nope, that didn't happen. That's kind of how they treated him. Like he was captured like 3 or 4 times, and it's like, what do you have? Oh, a briefcase with rope, duct tape, a couple of knives,
Just
they're
as
like-
tools.
and it's like, oh,
just
well,
the
this-
essentials.
Just
yeah,
normal,
it's like,
everyday,
this is the
everyday
area
carry.
where
Yeah.
the killer has been.
Sundries.
This is the. What are you drinking? Broth?
What is what is that?
So it's green. I've been pounding green tea all day. It's green tea, but it's in a quart container.
All right,
Oh.
because you were drinking the Starbucks thing earlier, then all of a sudden you just pull out like broth and just like start chugging it.
No, it's
Are you in
green
like
tea.
kitchen restaurant or something? What
That's
is
where I
that?
got the habit. I bought my own quart containers because this is what you use when you're in a kitchen. So it's
I've
habitual.
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
So,
sorry, Patrick.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, that threw me off.
Sorry. It's just green tea.
So they go and they arrest this guy, or they detain him with all these things in the area where all these murders are happening. And it's like, oh, wait, you're a card carrying communist? Well, there's no way you're the killer. And they let him go. And that night he killed a hooker, ripped out her uterus, and ate it in front of her. Like, that's where he was at. And his trial was going on in Russia at that time. So, like, he was a cannibal. And when he finally figured out that they were gonna capture him, he told his wife, because his wife would be like, "Will you walk me
I'm sorry.
from here
He
to
was
the neighbor's
married?
house?" He had 2 kids. He's like, "Will you walk me to the neighbor's house? I don't want the Ripper to get me." "Don't worry, baby. When you're with me, nothing will happen." You know,
Oh,
but he was
That's
like,
fair.
"Yeah, so I'm the killer. You need to turn me in for the reward money."
Wow.
Wow.
Like the one decent thing he did.
His call, he was called the Ripper.
The Rostov Ripper.
I wonder if
Hmm.
that's where the Chesapeake Ripper came from in subsequent.
Probably.
They all
but it was-
derive from Jack the Ripper.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, because he was in a place called Rostov on Don in
Yeah.
Okay.
Russia. I did
And he was very, his Chikatilo's style was very reminiscent of Jack the Ripper.
oh, okay. All right.
and he was very prolific. I think 51 people in like
Wow.
13 years, something like that.
Yep. He
Yeah,
was
I
he
did
was
a-
he was very active, at least one a month.
I did a report on cannibalism and serial murder for my psychology class at college like 25 years ago.
Wow.
But yeah, he was based on Hannibal was
Yep.
based on Alfredo
Oh, yeah.
Biotrevino,
Yep.
Pietro Pacciani, who was the actual Il Monstro from real
Mhm.
life, and Albert Fish, who was that dude. He was part of my report too. When they finally caught him and electrocuted him, the electric chair shorted out because he had a habit of sticking needles into his ass and groin, and it shorted out the electric chair. He's a guy who killed like a 4-year-old girl and then wrote to the mother, telling her exactly how he killed and ate her.
They actually used a little bit of his background when they did the Alienist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They kind of
And
took a
that's-
little bit of him off from the Alienist because
Yeah, and there was also that the serial killer in Britain that was like around for I think 30 years. They did a show on it on AMC called The Long Shadow. It's really good, and it's the Yorkshire Killer, and it was basically a serial killer who killed prostitutes. But it was basically he did it for like 30 years, and I forgot how many women he ended up killing, but it was a lot. It was a really good show. I think it was only like 6 episodes on AMC Plus. Well, I saw it on AMC Plus. I don't know what the original name was. It might have been IFC. I don't know, but
serial killers are so fascinating.
yeah, yeah. So I wonder if that came. I mean, I feel like I'm sure that when Harris wrote this, it was like an amalgamation of just like a ton of different serial killers.
There was
He was
also
at Pacciani's trial.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was there taking notes.
Jesus.
there was also another one I wrote down. The person, Gary, I'm going to say his last name wrong. Hindnick. He
Yes.
kept people in his basement, in a pit in his basement. So they kind of pulled that from him.
The pit was filled with water though, and he would do
Oh.
multiple at a time.
God.
He'd have 2 or 3 of them in there at a time.
Keeps them moist.
Yeah, that's how you treat the skin.
That's how you treat the skin. You
Yeah.
keep it.
I mean, Buffalo Bill did want her to put lotion on herself, so you do have to put the lotion on the skin.
What's his name? Crawford was based on an actual person. John Douglas, who was an FBI guy at the time.
The Mine Hunter.
Yep, the mine. I
Yep.
was gonna say they based Mine Hunter.
Oh
off of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great show. That show was awesome.
Yeah.
To get him kind of Scott Glenn into the character, he's like, here, listen to the Van Killer tapes, which is apparently available on YouTube,
Oh.
and they use it. It's like the most terrifying hate. Like it's all real shit that, people being killed by this one guy, and he recorded everything.
Just going to
And
add that to my notes so I can listen to that later.
They use it to desensitize agents so like they can deal with stuff in the field without like having any issues.
Interesting. Which you bring up the Jack Crawford thing. I wanted to mention this before. Talking about casting, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I feel like Harvey Keitel as Jack Crawford is the worst casting for Jack Crawford.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
I thought he was, out of all the Jack Crawfords, I thought he was the worst.
I wasn't happy with when I heard
Lawrence Fishburne.
Thank you. I was like, oh, he's so like
he's not that guy.
He's too forward for Jack Crawford. But then the way the whole show portrayed everybody, he's my favorite. I loved it. Yeah, I ended up loving it. I thought he would just be too much for Jack Crawford, but they made Jack Crawford too much in that.
I was going to say one thing about the Van Killer tapes. Listen at your own caution.
Yes.
They are. I do this horror thing as at least part of my living. I did not sleep. They are rough.
Why does that make me want to listen to it more?
Scott Glenn still has nightmares.
Yes.
Really?
They're genuinely terrifying.
I mean, I feel like, and maybe James, this might be, I feel like we're similar in this, where like, I love horror movies. I make horror movies, but like a lot of like the real life stuff doesn't interest me as much. Like I don't really want to know all this like real stuff. Maybe depends. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting from like it's interesting from an informational point of view for me anyway. But like, yeah, like I don't really have any interest in like listening to like the tapes of him actually talking about that stuff. Like to me, that's separate from horror movies, right? Like horror movies are entertainment. This is real. Like that stuff is terrible. Horror movies aren't.
I completely agree with you. It's just I and PJ can actually back me on this. When I'm researching something, I am insanely thorough.
Oh.
It's a writing project or a whatever I'm working on, I'm insanely thorough. And my first movie was about a serial killer.
Oh.
I went down that rabbit hole hard when I was working on that script. Because it was I wanted to find an angle for the character that hadn't been done before, because people had done Dark Passengers before, split personalities, stuff like that. I wanted to find something that was completely out of left field, that didn't apply to what other people had done before. But so it took me down the Van Killer tapes, a lot of this other real serial killer stuff we talked about. I went deep into it, and those came up, and I listened to them for that research, specifically for that. I'm not a I'm not a true crime podcast girly. I'm not into that. I don't care. Like, cool, we've got serial killers. That happens. It's that's not what I work in. I work in fiction. But sometimes real life overlaps, and you create fiction from real life sources. So that's where that came from. But yeah, that's where I went down. You're very correct, Brad. That's not my main interest. But if it comes up as research,
sure,
I will commit to it. And I committed to the Van Killer tapes, and my God, I wish I had not.
Yeah, I guess I do very little research on anything I do, which I think I like to rationalize that and say, well, I'm coming at it from I don't want to do anything that I can look at and be like, oh, I took it right from this. Instead,
no, wait, I gotta call bullshit on that though for you.
What's that? Why?
Because I feel your newer movie you did.
Yeah, all right. The newer movie, I did do a bit more research on it, so that is fair. But generally speaking, I don't do a ton of research. But the newer movie, which deals with entities and the summoning of entities, I did do a little bit of research just to get some of the terminology right, because I didn't want the incantation stuff to be like so out of left field.
Well,
So I
those
did.
those they'll come at you if they are. You bet you're gonna
They
get.
will. They
They
come at
will.
me for cryptid. I get
I
I get a
know.
lot of I get a lot of flack at cryptid where it's just like this isn't a real cryptid and like yeah I know it's a story, it's fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah. You,
feel like, to be clear, I don't feel
Yeah.
like deep research is going to affect the quality of the fiction. That's not really what I'm doing. I'm trying. That's like my personal process of getting into the headspace of finding
Right, right.
those little pieces. Like before I start working on the project itself, like Stakes, my vampire movie. Ask PJ. That script took me like a year because I was like in libraries in Boston, like reading books from the 16th century on
Jesus.
vampires and stuff because
God.
I'm freaking crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just too lazy for that. That's my problem.
I've
Like
been,
See,
honestly, James, the way you're doing it is the right way to do it. Like if there's any young filmmakers out there, don't listen to me. Do your research. It only helps you. I am not the one to look at for that.
but at the same time, like also find a happy medium. Don't go too down the rabbit hole because I wasn't kidding. I was in a basement in Boston looking for a leather bound book that I couldn't like. I had to ask
vampires.
permission to read. Like I went crazy. Don't always do that either.
Yeah,
Did
opened
you
up the
not?
book and like wind swept through the library.
Did you knock out the librarian and then eat the book to gain its knowledge? And
No,
okay.
I'd be in jail. I'd be in super jail.
See, I don't, obviously I'm the only one here that's not movie. I love just the research of learning
Yeah.
stuff about everything. So I unfortunately am going to listen to these tapes. I mean,
You can stop whenever you want, though.
Yes,
No,
don't
I
have to
know.
yes, you
complete
can.
Mhm.
I just, I
Tap
love,
out at any time. No one would judge you.
no, I know. I mean, there's things that I can't watch. Like I've never watched the Serbian film. Like I know my limits,
Mhm.
but I
Kill
do
yourself.
I do enjoy listening to real life things. We'll just
I
leave it at
watched
that.
a Serbian film once. Just the one time.
Yeah, that's not going to be on. If anybody's wondering, that will not be on Cryptidbits Goes to the Movies. We will not be
Please don't.
discussing the Serbian film.
And you really want to watch something like creepy real life, you've probably seen it, but the interviews with what is it, like the Iceman tapes, the interviews with Richard Kuklinski,
Oh, dude, those are nuts.
when he's
But
just sitting
not-
there like, yeah, the guy was pissing me off, so I went outside and hung him over my back. Like some
I
guy was
mean-
pissing him off at a bar, so he went outside. Guy was taking a leak in an alley, and he just wrapped his tie around his neck and hung him over his shoulder till the guy was dead.
Jesus.
I mean, when you've got Martin Scorsese basing his Joe Pesci parts on you,
Mm.
you know you're hardcore.
It's like,
We
yeah,
had-
we want to see how badass you are. Here's this gun. Go kill somebody. All right. Walks up to a car. Hey, buddy. What? Blam! Just fucking shoots people in the car. You know that guy? Nope.
Nope.
Harsh.
There was
dude.
a comment in the chat that I think this might be for Brad. Herbie says you should do your research because the filming locations might have sex dungeons.
Any dungeon is a sex dungeon if you try hard enough.
If you bring your
If
own
you're
lubricant, anywhere
Anyone
can be a
is.
sex dungeon.
I mean, to be fair, I did. So he's referring to there was a scene in Cryptid where we shot at a location which turned out to also be a sex dungeon.
Hey, places can be two things.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't use it as a sex dungeon. It
Okay,
was a
well, that's good.
surprise that it just we actually you wouldn't even know it's a sex dungeon, but we filmed there outside, and then we found out a couple days before we were going to shoot there, we found out that it was in fact a sex dungeon. So, you know,
I don't have
that was
any of
less
this in
of a
my.
research thing.
I have none of this in my notes, so I'm not sure where to go from here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Um,
You don't have
that's-
to go anywhere.
Well, I did have one thing I was gonna say before we started talking about sex dungeons and murder tapes.
Well, we'll
Uh,
circle back to the murder tapes and the sex dungeon, I'm
yeah.
sure.
I mean, I assumed. No, talking about the whole Jack Crawford casting thing.
Mm.
The two scenes, it's basically the same scene, but it's shot in both of the movies. The scene where, he first meets Clarice in his office, and he's like, oh yeah, I gave you an A. She's like, A minus. And he kind of like smiles at her. As opposed to what's her name? Larissa Olenek and Lawrence Fishburne as Miriam Lass and Jack Crawford. He's like, yeah, I gave you an A. She's like, A minus. And he's like, we're not going to get too far if you're going to correct me on everything. Like, he got pissed that she had the audacity to speak to him.
His Crawford is definitely more powerful, I think, than original Silence.
Like, everybody's afraid of him and like runs away. Like when Will's like, oh, if you don't like my theories, why don't you come up with some of your own? And the rest of the team's like, oh, and they all ran off.
I liked. I'm assuming, did all four of us watch the TV series?
I think I only watched the first season, maybe some of the second. I don't think I
first two seasons.
Yeah,
I've watched all of it repeatedly.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's Ash's Von Nightmare, Sex Dungeons and Dragons in the chat. That's next week. Bring your own 20-sided die, and we will be rolling for initiative in the Sex Dungeon next week.
Critical hit.
Critical fumble would be way worse in a Sex Dungeon.
I do have a small story about Sex Dungeons and Dragons. There was a million years ago, I made the only non-horror movie in my catalog, which was a mockumentary about a group of Dungeons and Dragons players. And so I made this movie, and I wanted to sell it. So I put it on. We got it on DVD, and I wanted to sell it. So I went to Comic-Con in New York City, and I rented a table there so I could sell the DVDs. I figured like, oh, that's a good place to sell DVDs about a mockumentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And I was actually right across the way from Wizards of the Coast, their booth, whatever. Anyway, because I had this movie that was just like all about Dungeons and Dragons players, I got a lot of people coming up to me and asking me about playing Dungeons and Dragons, which I have played Dungeons and Dragons. But like there was one person in particular who made me the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life talking about Dungeons and Dragons, because I don't know how he got to this subject, but he immediately started talking about an X-rated campaign that he was running with his friends.
Question, was it Brian?
No, it was not Brian. This was a total stranger.
Okay.
He was running an X-rated campaign, or he wasn't running it. Someone else in this group was running an X-rated campaign. And at one point, he told me that he had gone into some brothel or something, and he had to have sex with this elf of some sort.
He just had to.
He rolled, and he said this with the most prideful way you could possibly say it. He's like, I rolled 2 20s in a row, and so I had the most perfect sex anyone has ever had. And I was like, all right, I gotta go.
So did you want to buy a copy of the movie?
Yeah, did you want a copy of the DVD? There is no sex happening in this DVD.
Well, there's no sex happening in real life either.
I would say Ash's Von Nightmare is like the best username I have heard in so long.
That's a great
wife.
Oh my gosh, she has an amazing username.
Well, that's
her name.
That's her name.
Oh, then she has the most amazing name I've heard in very long.
Mm-hmm. She is.
But anyway, sorry to derail this into a sex dungeon.
No, I don't even think it got derailed. I think it's just another.
That is a story I needed to know.
And technically, if you kind of think about it in a way, it does fit the theme, because there's a type of sex dungeon in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
there's just no actual sex happening. It's just a desexing.
More of a gender dungeon.
Yes.
Yeah.
A gender reassignment dungeon, if you will.
Stew. I got a whole bathtub of
that whole drop in the card scene and just sliding, it was probably the creepiest scene in that whole movie, the way his body just slid
It's
around
very
the corner.
Well,
Snake-like.
disagree. Creepiest thing in the entire movie is how Anthony Hopkins describes the butterfly. It's like chrysalis or pupa. Like it's so. Why do you say it like that? And from thence into beauty. Like it's such a weird shift how he's talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
The symbol.
They
of
did
the
a they
moth
did a
is
really good
change.
job. I feel like throughout that movie, just in general. I mean, Jonathan Demme is an excellent director.
Can
And
I
they
be
did a
dumb for
really
a second? What else did he do? Why can't I
that's the
place
thing. So he did fucking
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
That
He
was
did
his next movie.
Philadelphia,
prior
a-
to
which is-
Silence?
No, but
right
after.
Okay.
And
After.
he
He
said
also
it was
did-
kind of like an apology towards the LGBTQ community because of the way they were portrayed in Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
So he then went and made Philadelphia.
I was trying to
also
think of
did-
that earlier because I'm like, what the fuck do I know him from?
Yeah, he also did The Manchurian Candidate, which was
Mm-hmm.
a remake, which is a really good remake actually. I enjoyed that with
Okay,
Denzel Washington.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I interrupted
And,
you, but
we have
I had
Shrine.
to ask before I forgot.
No, it just I mean it's sort of where I was kind of going with it, which is, you know, this movie looks much different than some of his other films, right? And so like that's a credit to him
Mhm.
to sort of taking the source material and crafting a film around that source material and giving it sort of this very different look and feel than really what he's done in the past and what he ends up doing after that. Like it's not like you would look at least I don't think so. Like I don't look at Silence of the Lambs and be like, oh yes, this is a Jonathan Demme movie, like through and through. I
Yeah.
feel like he sort of crafted this movie in a way that made it the most effective for the source material there, and that's a huge credit to him because you know if you watch Philadelphia, it's not like you're like, oh yeah, this is the same person. I totally get that. No, it looks totally different. It's a different
And I
it's a
think
different
that-
vibe. It's a different tone.
And I think that's how you should be as a filmmaker. You shouldn't be able to look at something like, yep, that's this guy's film. I know exactly what to expect.
Part of my issue with Wes Anderson.
I hate
I-
Wes Anderson films.
He's the
Throwing
first
some hot
person I
takes.
thought of when we started talking about repetitive style. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But it's
can't
like-
stand.
Which actually, his other stuff, like not his other stuff. Speaking of like sort of different movies, what's your take on what's your take on Red Dragon, and B, Red Dragon versus Manhunter?
I liked Red Dragon. The book was hastily written
Mhm.
because they wanted a sequel. But it does kind of delve more into Hannibal's forethought and almost supernatural planning, like where he's
Mhm.
got money hidden everywhere and
Yeah.
like the way he blends into things.
Yeah, they kind of make him like a mythological creature, even Hannibal.
It's like he had, like they talk about how he had multiple identities that could survive an audit. Like he had just hundreds of thousands of dollars everywhere, mostly in cash. But the film adaptation, I mean, Ridley Scott did the adaptation, which I thought was interesting. But that compared to Red Dragon, now you would think that Red Dragon would be, I mean, Manhunter would be amazing, considering it's like you got William Peterson as Will Graham, you have Tom Noonan as Francis Dollarhide, you have Stephen Lang as Freddie Lowndes. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not a role that I'm used to seeing him in. But it's just, you know, Brian Cox did an okay job as Hannibal,
Mm.
like serviceable for what he was given, but I don't know. I didn't think Michael Mann's take on it was that great. I did not care for Ed Norton as Will Graham. Didn't
Yeah.
like it. It gave me too much of the vibes from what's that one with him and Richard Gere, his first movie where he's got
Oh, Primal Fear. That movie's
Primal
amazing.
Fear. It gave me a little bit of those vibes, but like not in a good way. Like he didn't. He didn't do it for me.
No.
Hannibal was still good. Gary Oldman, fucking amazing. Frankie Faison again, who has been in every one of these movies with the exception of Hannibal Rising. Like he played Barney in Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal. He played a different character in Manhunter. It's just odd that like he's the one guy that's like the one actor that's in all of these. That's the connective tissue for every one of these movies. They did make Hannibal a little scarier. I like the fact that they changed the ending of the book. Like he never, because the book it gets ridiculous. Like he goes and digs up Clarice's dad
Mm-hmm.
and like floods her with psychedelic drugs to make her fall in love with him because he's trying to use her to replace his sister.
This
Which
is
they-
Red Dragon we're talking about? What are we talking about?
That's Hannibal. Sorry, I'm
Which they
getting ahead
kind of
myself.
did with the TV series, except they used the younger girl.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name right now.
Miriam Lass.
No, the other younger girl, the one that her dad slit everybody's throat.
Oh, Abigail Hobbs.
Abigail, yes, which they took that and used that for Abigail in the TV show.
Yeah, they
The
took
the Shrike's daughter.
Yeah, Garrett Jacob Hobbs, which they said
Yes.
every goddamn time they said his name.
Yes, that's his
But,
full
like,
name, Garrett Jacob Hobbs.
I know, but like they don't say Hannibal Lecter, Jack Crawford, William Jefferson Graham. Like, it's not the same thing every time. But with that character, like he was kind of like a throwaway thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, I've only seen Manhunter twice. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I kind of blocked it out. So I tried rewatching it to see if I liked it again. No. They made Hannibal seem like he was the one killing college girls. And I was like, what? Like, that was Hobbs. That wasn't Hannibal. Hannibal didn't... What? Like, I was so confused. Like, they took the whole cannibal aspect out of it. And they're like, yeah, he was killing college girls. It's like, no, he wasn't. That's dumb. Like, you just neutered the character. And then you completely forget about that in Red Dragon because they don't even mention it. They don't mention why. They just like, oh, we need you on this one. Oh, the last one was bad. It's like they don't explain what's going on other than, you see the opening scene with him and Hannibal. But you don't know why he's using Hannibal to consult. I will also say Ralph Fiennes did an amazing job as Francis Dollarhide. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman was such a tool bag as Freddie Lounds.
Yeah, he was.
I think I dislike him more than Jodie Foster in real life.
For me,
Well, he's dead. So.
yeah.
I can still dislike him.
For me, the comparison all comes down to Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah.
Just,
You
that
didn't
Ralph
watch
Fiennes
the
versus Tom Noonan? Like, that's tough.
that is tough, but Ralph Fiennes, like that performance is freaking incredible.
Open your eyes. Oh,
It's
that
just
scene.
like
he's more animalistic.
He also got fucking ripped for that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think I know
And-
you didn't Patrick's the only one that watched it, but who would you say between The Hobbit and Ralph Fiennes?
Hobbit.
The Red Dragon TV, Red Dragon.
Oh. That dude, he was good. They gave him a little bit more backstory and screen time.
Would you still go Ralph?
I still got to go Ralph Fiennes.
Okay.
Like, there was just something really terrifying about him. Like he had that look. There's a line, and it's pulled directly from the book where
Is it the For My Pleasure?
yes,
Yeah.
like
I knew you were
trying
gonna
to get her to ride,
I knew it. I use
ride
that
with
line
me.
all the time in my house.
and she's like, "It's like, no, it's all right. I'll take the bus." He's like, when he's thinking in his head, he's like, "What do people say?" He's like, "For my pleasure." It's like, whoa, red flag there. That's the sign not to go into the
Yeah.
van. Ride with me for my pleasure. Oh,
For My
okay.
Pleasure.
I wasn't
love that
going
fucking
to,
line.
but since you put it that way,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, James. I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's
was
okay.
I know you were doing Manhunter talk. I fucking hated that movie.
it
Wait, what,
wasn't.
Oh
Manhunter?
no, I don't like Manhunter at all.
The whole like that's the movie where he's like bum, 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 and he breaks through the window and it's all like very bad cut editing both.
Very, very poorly edited.
It's so
The
bad.
last 20 minutes of that movie is one of the worst edited films I've ever seen. Like I have to believe, because Michael Mann's a good director, obviously. I had to believe that either he wasn't there or some footage got lost somewhere and that's what they had and that's all they could do with it, because it is so jump cutty. It's
Oh, it's
really,
so
really
bad.
poorly.
What's your I know the For My Pleasure is from Red Dragon. What's your line from Silence of the Lambs that you always come back to?
Oh, good question. I mean, I feel like there's so many of the lines in Silence are just like comedy lines.
Mm.
Like they go like like, is she a great old fat lady like that? Like that's just like a funny line. And like, when he talks about like, is she roomy in the hips, like whatever. Like
Yes,
it's like
roomy.
there's a lot of like very comedic lines, but there's some really good, just like, I mean, there's so many like great just straight up lines in that movie.
I
I'm trying
myself
to think of like
cannot.
one above all others.
I think when I watched it last month or whenever it was, the people will say we're in love line got me because
That is a good one.
the movie's released on Valentine's Day. It's a weird love story when you think about it.
Sure.
Have you
Not
ever
as romantic as The Village, but it's still a weird romantic love story.
Have you ever seen it? The cut where they make it seem like it's a romantic comedy, like it's
No.
a
That's
trailer.
That's a
that
trailer,
they
right?
cut.
It's a trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh
like it
God.
ends with his finger stroking hers.
First human contact, what, in like 8-10 years, however long he had was that finger stroke.
Yep.
He's gonna hold on to that for a while.
I myself cannot. Like that line.
I
I
mean,
used to
just
say that all the time in high school.
even just like Jodie Foster's story of the lambs
Mhm.
is one of the best like monologues. I mean, I guess it is a dialogue because he does continue to press her, but like that story about her as a kid is just like so like that's just written so well and so
That's
fantastic.
Ted Talley. That's not in the book.
Oh, really?
In the book, she has it's a similar situation. She wakes up, hears the lamb screaming,
Mhm.
and then decides to just sneak away and takes her old blind horse with her. And
Hmm.
so they end up at the orphanage and she just stays at the orphanage
Mhm.
and like the rancher and the cousin like never go to look for her, never, they're just like, oh, she's gone, and the horse went with her because she didn't want the horse to get ground up into food for the other animals, because that's
Yeah,
what
and
they do. That's how
Silence
mad
of the
cow disease.
Horses didn't have, I guess, the best ring to it, so they changed it.
But yeah, she and the horse like died a year before the events of the book and movie. So like
Huh.
the horse lived a long life. Like the kids at the orphanage would ride it around. Like, so that didn't quite have the same. It's like the ending of Jaws, where like I know in the movie that's been debunked, like you can't shoot a tank and it'll explode, but it's better than the shark dies of exhaustion. In the book, it literally says Brody closed his eyes, nothing happened. Like that's a great way to end your movie. Nothing happened. The end.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the shark died of exhaustion. So goddamn stupid. Makes me
But
so
that's
angry.
like when we were talking about The Exorcist last month, the ending of Exorcist 3, it was changed because it was less climactic than the movie needed to be.
Yeah, but like, was that based on source material though? Like, was there a book for that?
Yeah, Legion.
Yeah. Legion.
Oh, I didn't know. I
Yeah.
only knew about the first book.
Yeah.
The only thing I knew about that
It's
was
because there's only 2 books, but
Yeah.
there's 3 movies.
We don't
So, like,
talk about the second one.
like The Hobbit.
Exorcist 2 was based on nothing.
Yeah.
Exorcist 3 was based on his book Legion, which was
I'm
sequel to Exorcist.
I'm gonna give you guys, I'm gonna step away for a second, even though we're live streaming. I apologize.
I do have to just ask one question.
Just because of this, I need to step away for a second.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Did you guys talk about how The Exorcist came into being, like why it was written?
I will let you guys
Why-
discuss this.
We did,
Will-
yeah, we did. Where it was based on an actual case
No, but
that
like
they.
why William Peter Blatty wrote The Exorcist, like his reasoning behind it.
I believe we touched on it with with the priest that joined us. I just
He
I
had a
can't
lot of
Because he-
backstory about that stuff, but I don't remember exactly what you're driving at.
He wrote that because he had been known in Hollywood and had kind of been typecast for writing Pink Panther movies and
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
do that anymore. And
Mhm.
so his answer to that was to write the goddamn Exorcist.
no, that did actually come up now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we did
Because
discuss
I was
that.
like, that's one of the most fascinating things where it's like, oh, I don't want to be known for slapstick comedy. What can I do? Oh, I'll write a movie about The Exorcist. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the same thing with what is it? The is it Kevin Anderson? The dude who wrote Seven. Same idea, where like he was looked at as someone who was writing all like fluffy things, and he
Yeah.
wanted to change his image, and so he wrote Seven.
It's like
Um,
just the total opposite. Like so
What is
dark.
his? I'm trying to think of his full name, and I can't think of his full name. It's like something. Is it Kevin Anderson or I'm blanking
Let's
on
look
it.
it up
It
real
doesn't really
quick
matter.
while we fill the airwaves.
It doesn't make a
here.
difference.
Well,
But
it
I think
does.
for-
I'm gonna give the guy credit.
Um, but yeah, I mean, going back to like the Manhunter Red
Andrew
Dragon
Kevin
thing.
Walker.
Like what is it?
Andrew Kevin Walker. So you
Thank
were
you,
in
Andrew
the
Kevin
ballpark.
Walker. I was in the. I sort of like had the rough words, just
You were
not the right
there.
order.
You were you were in
I was
the ballpark.
I was on the cusp. I really like. You know, it's funny when I remember when I first watched Red Dragon, I was like, oh, that's okay. It's pretty good. I liked some of it, but I always sort of I held like Manhunter up at like somewhat of a pedestal, and was like, oh yeah, like Manhunter, that's awesome, like Michael Mann, and like I always remember it very fondly. But then I remember like a couple years ago, I went back and watched them both sort of back to back. And I was very surprised at how much more I enjoyed Red Dragon than I did Manhunter. Like Manhunter's good, but like I felt like Red Dragon was a bit more of a complete story where Red Dragon I felt like it just sort of like hops along and does what it needs to do. Yeah, Manhunter hops along. I thought Red Dragon was a bit more complete story. And I don't know how it relates to the book. But as a movie, I thought it tied itself together in a much better way. I mean, the one thing I didn't love was like I didn't love in Red Dragon where the whole thing at the end where like his family's in jeopardy and that whole thing I didn't love with like, you know, you pissed yourself, you little beast, and that whole thing.
That's
That was the Ed Norton, right? Version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That
lifted
felt like
directly
that felt
from
like
the
a bit of a
book, though.
Hollywooded ending, which I wasn't.
No, that's lifted directly from the
Yeah.
book.
Is it really? Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Well, because I
he-
don't think they get into his backstory in the movie, do they? With grandma and all that.
A little bit, like you do hear when he's working out and he's like talking to the voices in his head.
Yeah.
She says the same thing.
Mm.
Like you can hear the grandmother like talking to him.
Yeah,
But,
because
like-
he used to hold scissors. She used to hold scissors to him and threaten to cut it
I mean,
off because
it
he
made
pees the
sense.
beds.
I'm not saying it didn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like it made sense in the context of the movie. I didn't love the idea of like, oh look, he's going to go, you know, to his family and then he's going to sort of save him and then he gets
Well, that was
shot like 64 times.
Was that a movie or a TV movie?
No, that's
Movie.
Red Dragon.
No, Manhunter.
Oh,
That was a
Manhunter
TV.
That was a movie, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was made for TV.
I don't think it was made for TV.
Hold on.
That's a pretty. I mean, I could be
Yeah,
wrong,
it's
but I feel
fairly
like it's
intense for the time.
there's like nudity in that movie. I don't think there's.
Oh,
Doesn't he run around with like his ass hanging out?
I don't know, but there's a sex scene. Like there's a point where.
Oh yeah, because she blows him.
Well, no,
Oh,
it's
yep,
him
yep.
and his wife. It's him and his wife.
Oh, I was thinking.
oh yeah. It actually was real. I always
What's her
thought that
name?
was a made for TV.
No, Peterson, the guy.
Will
Peterson there. William Grant, thank you. William Grant, like
Okay.
I think he's like in a hotel and his wife shows up and then they have like a big conversation about
Oh.
like, what it's doing to him and then they end up having it's like a big sex scene after that.
I guess I just really blanked on that movie just because
Yeah,
of
I don't
how.
remember that either.
It's a very 80s sex scene with like
Okay.
hard blue and blue lights and like contrast. It's like it's
What,
very
like
80s.
86. that came out?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I
Yeah.
just saw a little while
It's
ago.
the heart of the 80s, and it looks like it's the heart of the 80s.
Jesus.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
remember that there's a saxophone during that sex scene,
There
but in my head
definitely
there's a
was.
saxophone.
It's either a saxophone or a synth.
Yeah.
Tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was so bad. I'm trying to look at my notes here, see what we didn't get over. But
Oh, I thought of a thing that I thought was interesting that I totally forgot. In the when Hannibal is toying with the senator, like
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he was talking about in his inner monologue in the book is more like, because Jack Crawford's like, I don't recommend that we do this because Hannibal would. It's more fun for him to go and like torment her than it would be to like actually bargain for his freedom.
mhm.
And instead of Lewis Friend, he doesn't do any of the anagram stuff. Instead of Lewis Friend, he's like, oh, his real name is Billy Rubin, which is
Shit.
it's the pigment that makes shit brown.
I loved that.
Billy Rubin, Bilirubin. It's one word.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, that's what this is. And like he goes on, he's like, oh yeah, like, and he's gonna have this disease. I forget what it was, but it's like something that like knife makers get, kind of like, hatters would get like mercury poisoning. It was like the same type of thing, and like he's just like stringing them along and just tormenting them, and like he thinks to himself, he's like, yeah, Crawford's right, like that would be way better. But like now
I
I'm
think
free.
in book Hannibal, they make him way more not jokey, but more having fun with everybody.
Yeah, he really like tears into people. Like there's that line where Chilton talks about somebody came to see him, and like Hannibal was like barely gave a shit. Like he opened his eyes long enough to insult the guy and discredit his research.
Yeah.
And the guy ended up leaving crying.
Is movie Hannibal everybody's favorite Hannibal? I guess.
Book Hannibal
Excuse
is
me? What?
No, movie, TV show, or Manhunter. Brian Cox, Anthony Hopkins, or Mads Mikkelsen.
Hopkins.
If you really,
It's not even, to me, it's not even a contest. It's Hopkins.
Yeah.
I view Hannibal, the TV show, and the Silence of the Lambs films as two separate universes, because those Hannibals are so different. They are so different. You can't really compare the two of them. It's like, when people are like, oh, LeBron James is the greatest of all. No, it's Michael Jordan. No, you can't compare them because it's two different, completely different eras. Like you can compare the performance based on how their universe is constructed around them. I mean, you never get to see free Hannibal. You never get to see his relationship with Jack Crawford. You never get to see these interpersonal relationships. You get so much more in the shows because there's so much material to work with, even though they're both everything's just Red Dragon in the TV show. It's all Red Dragon, which is why you never see Clarice, and they have the proxy for Clarice in Miriam Lass. Abigail Hobbs was never a character. And
no, I don't think they had the rights to Silence of the Lambs, which was very weird to find out afterwards that they didn't do a Silence theme because they didn't have the rights to it, but they had the rights to everything else.
Exactly, because they did the Hannibal stuff with Potsy and Mason Verger and all that. But it's so, they're so different characters. Like what we see with Anthony Hopkins is a character who is confined. I think somebody referred to it as seeing like a shark in an aquarium. Like he's just kind of biding his time until he can get out. Like that's all it is. Like he's not going to exert any energy. Meanwhile, we see all these different machinations and like how he does what he does.
Machinations, even. Jesus.
Yeah.
I wish I was there to give you a quarter for that one, because that's holy shit.
You just see like all his like and nothing is ever explicitly said. It's not like, I am going to do this. And like, they don't even show him doing half the shit he does. You just see the aftermath of everything that he's put into place. Like when they're trying to, like, they get Miriam last and she comes out and she's like, oh yeah, I would recognize his voice. And she hears the voice and it's not Hannibal. But like, we all know it's Hannibal. It's like the second season when Will is being framed for all of these crimes. And it's just like, fuck, like, there's so much going on. Like Silence of the Lambs, that series, it's really not Hannibal's story. Hannibal is there, but it's not about him. It's about Will Graham, and then it's about Clarice in the other two films.
I think I looked it up somewhere. He has 16 minutes of screen time in that whole movie.
Yeah,
which is mind blowing. For that performance that he gave it in 16 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's really well done, but you can't compare the two characters, in my opinion, because again, it's such a different environment. That's like seeing a tiger in the zoo or seeing a tiger out in the wild. Like, you're gonna feel differently.
Oh yeah,
seeing those in those different circumstances. So that's kind of my take on. But book Hannibal, you get whatever you want to see, you see, and you get a lot more backstory. You get his inner monologue. One thing that they never really talk about is how in the movies how strong he is. Like apparently he's just unnaturally strong. Like his
Hannibal
strength matches his
his
strength matches his intelligence. Like it's off the goddamn chart, and like you wouldn't think it looking at him. But like, he carries people around.
Ashes interjected that movie Hannibal is cerebral and visceral, while TV Hannibal is intoxicatingly charismatic, and I think that perfectly sums it up.
Yeah,
That works.
I mean, she gets it.
Yeah. If anybody is watching for future episodes, also, we are going to be doing some more movies. If anybody out there is interested in the next lineup of movies, you know where to reach me.
Get Ashes on here.
Ashes, what's your movie? It's got to be one of these. It's got to be The Village. It's got to be Signs. It's got to be Poltergeist. It's got to be The Cell, or it's going to be The Fall, which is not The Fall with the two chicks on the cell tower. It's The Fall that Tarzan did as a follow-up to The Cell.
Yeah.
Those are your movie choices. And for GA5STR, I think you have the wrong show. Have you ever looked in a mirror and you were not in the mirror? Was his question. Not sure
Well,
if anybody wants to answer that.
There was that brief stint where I had that case of vampirism, and it happened. But otherwise, no. I've always seen somebody in the mirror.
Okay, I think he's thinking of maybe another Silence of the Lambs that I haven't seen, maybe a different version.
I also think that it's unfair for anyone to try and sell a mirror as new, because no mirror has ever not been used. So
maybe he is watching the right show. So
okay,
yeah. Anybody have any last Silence of the Lambs that they want to get out? I know you do, Patrick.
I know. Well, if anybody else wants to go ahead, because I have a couple things I want to touch on real quick, but I'll do them rapid fire. So if anybody else wants to go first.
Nah, Patrick, this is all you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I've talked enough about the movie.
All right. Well, this is my thing. All right. So in the beginning, we see in her training that her issue is she doesn't check her corners, and that's why she gets shot. If she had checked her corners when she first meets Buffalo Bill, there is a butterfly painting right there, and that would have tipped her off. When they talk about Hannibal eating the nurse's tongue and his pulse never gets above 85, when he is on the gurney in the ambulance, his pulse is 84. Pulse is 84. The other question, and obviously it's a little too late to kind of talk about it, but why do we sympathize with Hannibal so much? and root for him and, hope things go well for him. But we have such a disdain for James Gumb when we realize that he had the troubled upbringing and he was the one who
Well,
was
because that's
systematically-
class and shame. Jamie Gumb is more trashy than Hannibal. Hannibal's pulled together and he's eloquent and he's educated, so we root for him. Jamie Gumb is in a trash pit.
on an empathic level, we should be rooting for. I mean, we shouldn't really be rooting for either of them, but we should at least feel some sort of sympathy if we can't empathize with James Gumb. Like Hannibal said, he wasn't made a monster. He wasn't born a monster. He was made one.
People empathize with the smarter character, I think.
I think you're right.
I think there's a lot of. I have a point. I think there's a lot of factors that at play with why we lean toward, or the general population leans towards sympathizing with Hannibal over James Gumb. Some of these points, some other. The lack of eloquency. I'll just wrap it all up in one point. So I know we don't have time. The lack of eloquency of James Gumb makes him hard to relate to.
Well, I think you don't really see it's also a seeing thing, right? Seeing versus telling. We've heard a lot of Hannibal Lecter's deeds, tragic or otherwise. We see James Gunn's deeds.
Yeah.
We see him torturing a woman in a well. We
100%.
see the things that he's doing.
Yeah.
With Hannibal Lecter, we only hear about it. If we saw Hannibal Lecter torturing and killing people, I think that would have a different attitude towards him. I mean, we do see him beat the cop, and I think that
beat the other guy's face.
What's that?
And flay him and hang him up as a blood eagle, and then eat
which
the other guy's face.
is yeah, that's at the end of the movie. And so I feel like you've already built this other thing up to that point. So, and I would say in that moment, his sympathy or the sympathy for his character diminishes greatly when he attacks the guard.
I mean, I don't even find it then.
But we're still happy that he's going to eat Chilton.
Yeah, we're still rooting for him that he's out and he gets to get his revenge on people that have been rude to him.
Are we happy? I don't know if I would classify
Okay,
myself
maybe
as
it's not
that he's
happy,
out.
but we're like, oh, good for him.
Good, fuck Chilton. That guy's a dick.
Yeah, it's like good for him. He's too cultured to be behind bars.
All right,
I feel like this is a question that we could literally hammer on for like 2 hours and we still wouldn't have gotten to the core of it. It's a wider question of like what's the fascination with serial killers and
deep psychological dive
in general. I mean, it would take forever to explain it. You're going back like layers and layers and layers of social conditioning. It's very strange.
Serial killers are dangerous and sexy.
All right, so I just got a couple more things.
Give me a good picture of Ed Gein and tell me he's sexy. Anyway, moving on.
Maybe back in the day. I mean,
back before electricity, you must have been something.
Well, when they make the new
exactly
show,
right.
they're doing the guy from Sons of Anarchy. They're sexing him up too. He's playing Ed Gein in the new Monsters, so they even sexed him up.
All right, the moth that was pulled out of the cocoon that was pulled out of Frederica Bimmel's mouth was a gummy bear wrapped in a Tootsie Roll in case she accidentally swallowed it.
Yep.
The skull formation, everybody knows that it's a group of women, but it's actually a painting by Salvador Dali, whose name I forget what the actual
Which I have. There's my silence tattoo right there that's been covered all night.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The title of that piece is Voluptuous Death. Does anybody remember the Clarice TV show? I completely forgot about it, and I watched
was it a couple years ago?
It was like 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
It was a while ago, but I remember it.
I remember it, but I never watched it.
I watched it, and I only remembered it when like people were talking about it on the stuff that I was.
Was it pre Hannibal or post Hannibal? When was it set?
It was post Hannibal. which is why people
Oh.
were pissed because there was no season
Yeah.
4, but we got a Clarice prequel. It's like, no,
Hmm.
thank you. And one of the biggest plot holes in the movie, if Clarice had opened up and she never brings it up either her nor Adelia Map, how did Hannibal write the note in the case file if he wasn't supposed to have any pens? So, like, not only did he steal Chilton's pen and no one noticed, he then took it out and used it to write notes, hoping no one would see. So that's a little bit of a plot hole. And the last one, it's a little bit of a nitpick, but you can see the shadow of Buffalo Bill's gun on Clarice's back when he's aiming at her. You can see all the shadows. Which,
Oh, in the night vision.
yeah. So if
Yep.
it's pitch black, there shouldn't be any shadows.
Right.
But we all understand that it's a movie, and I never noticed it till somebody pointed it out on it. Again,
I'm
I
gonna
could
have
probably
to go
go on
rewatch it.
I could go on for hours and hours and hours about Hannibal. We did a whole Hannibal show on Throwdown Thursday. But yeah, I could do that forever. But those are just some of the things that I would have. Oh, and the last thing.
I knew there was time. That's why I didn't say anything. I knew you had more.
James Gumm's tattoo on his rib, which I originally thought was like Christ's side being pierced by a spear. It's Adam's rib being removed to make a woman.
Clever.
Just more into that. Oh, and the nipple with the piercing is a fake nipple.
And also, I'd like you to share right before we leave with the people listening. How did he prepare for the tuck scene? Because you told us before we went online.
So he was very, very nervous about doing it. And I believe this was in the days before intimacy coordinators.
I would assume so.
Well, I mean, Jesus, 10 years ago is the days before intimacy coordinators.
Yeah.
But he was very nervous about doing it, but he's like, I feel like I have to do this. So he did several shots of tequila. Like, he got himself good and buzzed, and then did the whole thing. He did it all on his own. He tucked himself, and he did the backwards, like, little moonwalk there, and then like, oh, I'm a dainty butterfly.
So for anybody listening that wants to Buffalo Bill themselves later, have a couple shots of tequila.
Well, if you're doing it on camera in front of an entire film crew.
Yeah. If you're doing it at home, maybe the tequila is not needed.
You don't need tequila if you're doing it at home. You can just kind of.
I will say though, like, dude was pretty shredded. Like,
I mean,
a six pack there.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad look. He pulled it off for sure.
I mean, he's definitely, I would say, in my vast catalog of men who've tucked their junk and has been naked in front of me, he's certainly like one or two. Like, I can't.
Top two easy. Yeah.
He's top two at least. At least.
I'm gonna say top 3, but that's just me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it way too many times to count. It's always the fun party trick. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight on the Silence of the Lambs chat. Thank you for everybody that listened, and we'll be doing it again soon. Very soon with a different movie. And that's about it. Everybody have a good night.